When we're young, we have an amazing, positive outlook about how great life is going to be, but somewhere along the line, we forget to dream and end up settling. Join Up Dots features amazing people who refuse to give up and chose to go after their dreams. This is your blueprint for greatness. So here's your host, live from the back of his garden in the UK, David Ralph.
Yes, hello there world, how are we all ready for another episode of Join Up Dots? I hope you are, because I am certainly looking forward to this one. When I started the show many months ago, I had a passion of bringing you different type of people that have got fascinating stories, and not like all the shows that are out there at the moment that seem to have the same online profile. I wanted to have explorers, adventurers, musicians, and people with a fascinating tale. And today's guest is somebody that's got a combination of many of those bits, because he is a guy who was brought up in a council estate called Knowle West in the city of Bristol in England, and started a lifetime passion of being creative and inspiring others to shake off their shackles and have the life of their dreams. He believes that through one-on-one training and group workshops, he can transform the mindset of those that work with him and give the participant the tools to take the next step towards realising their dreams. He can find the root of what's holding us back and help us move beyond those barriers and make long-lasting change. Now, typically, it's the negative thinking, feeling stuck or overwhelmed limiting beliefs or resourceful habits that hold us back. Now, his method is concerned with the creative mindset, what it is, how to get into it, and how to apply it to create in general, be it music, art, ideas, business strategies, or solutions. So essentially, if you're someone whose livelihoods and success depends on the conception of ideas, then our guest can help you get those ideas flowing. Now, this is the interesting bit, because if you think we're going to have a great conversation with a life coach, then think again, as he's also an alter ego, DJ Krust, who has made many releases on V recordings, and with friends Ronnie Size and DJ Dye made the label what it is today. In his own right, he's probably most well known for the mid-90s release Warhead, which was one of a handful of tunes released in early 1997, which saw drum and bass move towards a more streamlined sound. So how does he balance his desire for musical output against his desire for increasing human potential? And are there commonalities that he can see between these two very distinct passions in his life? Well, let's find out as we bring onto the show to start joining up dots, the one, the only DJ Krust. How are you, sir?
I'm great. What an intro. Thank you.
Well, I tell you what, I don't think I've ever spoken to somebody with a name like DJ Krust before. I feel all down with the kids. I feel hip and trendy. I don't know if I can be hip and trendy at the age of 44, because there was a lot in that I've got no idea what I was saying. All this drum and bass and move towards a more streamlined sound and stuff, but it sounded good.
It's dance music, electronic dance music. You know, I started getting into music from a very young age, and I kind of, I got in through hip hop, experimental music, pop music and stuff like that. And it just kind of, the drum and bass, or jonko music as it was called at the time, it kind of evolved out of all the different types of music that we were listening to growing up as kids. And I got into it at a time when it was, brand new, and we helped grow into the massive industry that it is today.
So let's give our listeners an understanding of where you come from, because I know Bristol quite well, but obviously this show goes across the globe. So how would you sort of describe the city of Bristol to somebody who's sitting listening to our conversation on a beach in Bora Bora?
Well, Bristol's a very small kind of city in the southwest of England. It's a very multicultural city. It's got heritage that stretches right back to the shipping era for England. It made its name kind of trading across the country, across the planet, in fact. We've got a great musical heritage here. We're the home of Massive Attack, Tricky, Portishead. We're known for creating a certain type of music, and we have a certain type of creativity here, mainly because we're 120 miles away from the capital. So we've got this unique perspective on sound, on culture, on attitude, and we've been able to use that to our advantage. And, we've got a reputation around the planet as a city that produces quality creativity, quality art, quality innovations, quality thinking, quality artists. And we've been able to trade off of that for the last 20, 30 years and build companies, build labels. We export great quality artists. Ed Sheeran studied here, and he's doing quite well for himself now. So Bristol is a very laid back, easygoing city where you can walk across the whole of Bristol in an hour. You can live very cheaply here, and you have an excellent pool of very talented, high level artists here that will work for dinner.
My favourite part of Bristol is, and you actually touched on it there, it's very sort of understated in many ways. And the fact that you sort of said, Ed Sheeran, he's doing quite well for himself. I thought, well, that's an understatement because he's sort of doing great guns, isn't he? But my favourite part of Bristol, there's a big hill with like a tower on the top, and you can look down onto the Ashton Gate football ground. This is going to bore people who doesn't know this at all. But do you know the place that I'm talking about? And people just sit up there reading books, and it's very sort of
the observatory.
Yeah, it must be that up there,
Yeah.
and you can just go up there and you can just let the world sort of pass you by. It's a lovely place.
Yeah, it's nice.
So you are hugely proud about where you live and where you started. And if we take you back in time, because that's what we do on Join Up Dots, was the music something that was always in you? And then when that type of music came around, you were primed for that? Or were you somebody that was just looking for something different than was in the area that you were growing up?
I think a bit of both. I grew up in a very musical household. My older brother was always bringing home music. My mum was always listening to Motown. My dad was listening to a lot of sort of Christian reggae, I call it. And when I was old enough, I started to buy my own records. The first record that I actually bought was the Specials and Ghost Town. And from then onwards, really, it was a case of just following the musical trends. The thing that kind of set me on my musical journey was a film called Wildstar. Now, for people who don't know, Wildstar is a film, a sort of independent film, based around the New York in the 80s, where you had a group of young people who got together and they started this sort of. It was kind of like the blueprint for the hip hop movement. So it was about breakdancing, graffiti writing, rapping, DJing. And so basically I saw this film with my brothers at 14 years old, and that was the blueprint for the culture. And basically we totally identified with these kids, what we were seeing on the screen. They looked like they'd been left out of society. They had been kind of pushed or shoved into the corner and said, you figure it out for yourselves. And so they did. They figured out how to, scratch and dress in a certain way, talk in a certain way, paint murals on walls. And we were excited by that because we didn't have much where we grew up. So we just latched onto that and started to really trying to emulate that, try to bring that to Bristol. And through that, I kind of learned about music. I kind of learned about culture. I learned about the attitude. And the music that I started to listen to from them was kind of like electronical style of music. And the type of parties that I used to go to, my friends used to go to when we were quite young, were musical parties, but parties that had a very different types of music. So I had a very eclectic vision and viewpoint of music. So when it came to starting to make, what people started to call jungle or drum and bass, it was very easy because the music was about a bit. It was the drums from hip hop. It was like bass lines from reggae. It was sort of electronica sounds from electronic records or techno records. And so having that attitude, having that idea, really lent itself to the natural progression of this music.
But fascinating thing about that, two things, is the Specials Ghost Town. Now, that wasn't my first record I ever bought. That was my second record. And that takes me back in time. I was always partial to Friday Night, Saturday Morning. Do you remember the B-side?
Yeah, yes, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you
Yeah.
don't get B-sides anymore, do you? You just sort of stick them in
No.
and that's it. Oh, what's happened to the B-sides? They were glorious days, weren't they?
I like
And
that.
the other thing that is that really what you were doing there was at an early age, you were showing entrepreneurial spirit. You were
Yeah.
becoming aware. You were looking at different things that you can bring into a new environment and tailor to your own needs. And that's really what being a successful entrepreneur is all about, isn't it? Just looking around and picking the best of things and making it yours, putting your own spin on it.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we kind of took it a stage further. We actually started a little crew, right? And the whole idea was, right, we were going to take what we saw on this video and we were going to bring it to Bristol. And so we took that initial idea and we took it to we took it to a school. We convinced our school to give us a room and we did exactly the same as what we saw in the video. We painted the walls, we put lino down. We got a little boogie box. We borrowed our brother's boogie box, and we held our first disco. And that was our first business. We charged kids 2 to 10 pence to come in, and we used to do that every 2 weeks. That same idea, when we left school 2 years later, we took to a youth club. And in that youth club, we did exactly the same thing. We talked to the people there. We asked them if we could have a room. We spray painted the room. We put lino down on the floor. But this time now we could afford turntables. So now we had turntables and we were holding discos there and we were charging people £2 to come in. And then from there, we found a squat in a place called Bedminster, St. Luke's Road. We did exactly the same thing there, but it was a much bigger scale. We found an old scout hut in this squat. We fixed the roof up. We got our friends who are now been spray painting a couple of years to come and spray the murals along the wall. We cleaned it up, and then we started to hold parties there once a month, charging people £5. So we took the idea from one level to another level to another level, and that's all I've been doing ever since. I've realized that there's a way to create culture, there's a way to communicate with people, there's a way to get people excited about the idea and get people to come in and contribute and to grow. And I've just been doing the same thing for the last 20 years, 25 years, and it works in the sense that we've been able to do amazing things with it. And now when I do talks or I do workshops, I explain to people these concepts and I help them understand that they are probably doing similar things right now. They just need it to be pointed out so that can be brought to their awareness.
So you haven't ever had a sort of quote-unquote proper job? You've always been entrepreneurial, have you?
Yeah, I've had one proper job, yeah.
And what was that?
That was, it was a strategic job. I went to work in a freezer factory in Bristol because we needed to buy turntables. So at the time we needed specific turntables. They were called Technic SL1200s, and they were very expensive at the time. And so we all decided as a crew to go and get proper jobs so that we could buy these turntables. And so I did. I went to work in a freezer factory for 6 months, and I saved up enough money to buy one turntable because that was my role in this crew. I had to buy one turntable, so I saved up enough. When I got to £450, I left, got the turntable, and that was it.
But that's I'm loving this conversation because it's sort of tailoring on so many things that I'm passionate about at the moment, because so many people are in situations or in jobs that they don't like, and they're unwilling to take a leap or change direction. But what I keep on saying to them, and I get loads of conversations, and I had a conversation the other day with our mutual friend Leo Prince. And I was saying to him, if you want to do something in your life and you want to have a dream and work towards it, it doesn't have to be the next thing you do. You can do some really rubbish stuff if it means that you're moving on to what you ultimately want. And that's the thing, isn't it? You knew that you wanted these turntables, and so you were willing to sacrifice those 6 months or whatever working in a freezer place, which must have been dreadful, I must admit. And at the end of the day, you knew that once you got your thing, that was it. It was the next step. And it's just another dot in the timeline.
Yeah, I mean, I was quite fortunate that I hung around with my brother who's quite savvy, and a few other people that, we were able to really be kind of strategic in our approach to the way that we were doing things. I understood from a very young age that if I wanted to get to B, I was gonna have to do some things at A that sometimes were going to be fun, but most of the time were going to be quite challenging. And you know, I've learned, like, for instance, to become a successful DJ, you have to learn the basics, right? And the basics are learning, you know, we call it clanging on the decks, right? And it's where you're learning to synchronize two turntables at the same time. It's very difficult because it's like playing the drums. You have to learn to use your legs and your hands, and you have to coordinate all these different things going at different times. And so in the beginning, when you're trying to learn the turntablism, it's very, very confusing. And it takes you about 8 or 9 months. But the thing about it is, once you get it, it's like riding a bike or riding a skateboard. The thrill and the excitement of finally being able to get it. It's the joy that you see a little kid has when they figured out how to walk, and the joy the parents have when they see their child walking for the first time. That's the experience of getting the turntables for the first time. And for me, I knew that that would be something worth going through. Like, going through this difficulty would be worth it in the end. And so I always knew from that early age, you have to do the dirt. You have to do something that you don't want to do to get the thing you do want to do. And that's always been in my mind in all of my stages of growth. And I'm going through a growth spurt right now. It's uncomfortable, but the thing about it is I know what it's going to be like once I actually get through this to where I want to get to.
So you're talking about basically practice and perseverance again, which is, you know, it's not a quick route. When you were saying about, what was it, clanging?
Yeah, clanging. Yeah.
Clanging. Now, I play the piano, different type of music, but there's certain things that I can set on the piano now and I can just bash out. And I look at my fingers, and my fingers are doing stuff, and I'm not even thinking about what I'm doing. And sometimes I actually go, this is amazing. For years, I couldn't do this at all.
Exactly.
But suddenly, my hands are doing stuff, and I'm not thinking about it anymore. And when you look at it, it's because of all those hours where I'm trying to do it. It is teaching, well, they call it muscle memory, don't they? But you're actually teaching your body to do something that once it clicks, you're on to the next step. And I think so many people in life, and certainly the people that I talk to, kind of feel they can skip that because they see the X Factor, the American Idol, and you just have to get up there and you get plucked to stardom and bang, you're there. But there's effort, isn't there? There's no overnight success. If you want something hard enough, you can get it, but you've really got to go out and do it.
Yeah, I mean, my saying is it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. And when I say that at my workshops, I just hear the life leave people's bodies. You know, they're like, oh, you know, we thought we were going to come here and hear the secret sauce of how to do it and blah, 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 and get all the shortcuts. And sure, yeah, I can tell you all the shortcuts, but there's no shortcuts to having the experience, because I can give you everything you want, but the problem with that is once you get there and you have a problem, you'll not know how to fix it. You don't know the route you've taken to get there. You've just copied someone else's route. And all you've done is looked at how someone else has done what they've done. But for you to change, you have to wait for them to change. And you can't live like that. You can't wait for other people to give you permission to do what you want. The best way to get what someone else has got is to figure out how you can do it yourself. That way you have the information, the knowledge, the wisdom, the experience to be intuitive, to understand how to maneuver at any level, you know. And I like the saying which General Patton used when he was teaching his lieutenants to be commanders like himself. And he basically said to them, listen, when I tell people to go and take the hill, I expect the people that I've trained to be able to use their initiative, because plans never work. When I tell people to go over and do that, I expect them to use their initiative and to get over there the best way they know how, not the best way I know. I empower people to do the work because I trust they know how to do it. And so that's what we want. We want to be able to put ourselves in the best possible position based on the information we have at any one time, so that we can improvise if things go wrong, because we have knowledge, we have wisdom, and we can use that knowledge and wisdom to overcome any difficulty. And that's what that's what I try and instill in people that I work with now, and that's what I've learned over the years, and that's what's helped me keep on going. I've been able to see the roots of things, and I've been able to understand where I've come from. And you know, in your intro, you spoke about how, you know, how music and creativity goes with this new stuff that I do with the training and stuff. They are very, very similar. It's the understanding that once you have a creative way of thinking, you can apply it on anything. And that's what I've been able to do. It's like making music, DJing, making labels, producing businesses. It is the same. If you break down the structure of all that understanding, all that learning, then you can apply it to anything. And that's what this new company, Disruptive Patterns, is about. It's understanding the principles, because they're universal.
It's just passion, isn't it? It's what you are passionate about this, and the reason that you're passionate is because you're doing stuff which is inherently you. It plays to your key values or your core values, and it's been a surprise to me when I started doing this show. I didn't really know how to do a show in any shape or form, so I just thought, I'll be myself. And people have said to me now, that was a wise decision to make. And I went, is it a wise decision? I just thought to myself, surely I can be better being me than anybody else. So surely until I get to be good enough to be somebody else, I'll just be myself. And that was just the logic. But now people are saying it's inspired, but it's not inspired at all. It's just, if you want to do something and you want to do it well, just do it like yourself. It's not rocket science, is it?
No, it's not.
Do you get people in your classes? Do you get people when you said, you know, you see the life drain out of them? But do you see people that come to one of your classes and then that's it? You don't see them again? Or do people... is it the ones with a straight back that are more likely to proceed? Or is it the ones that start slumped but then start getting straight again? Do you know what I mean? Where the interest kind of gets them and they suddenly have that penny drop.
I think what happens when they hear statements like that, I think initially, they think that, you know, they were going to get the shortcut or the secret sauce and stuff. But I think afterwards, what I do is I kind of I show them, or I lead them back to when they were great. You know, I help them understand that what I do is nothing special. You know, I've just been fortunate enough to do it from a very young age. So I've got the memory muscle, and I can see slightly different from the average person, because I've lived this life, you know, since I was 14. So it's a very unique perspective. And the most people I speak to, they're either just starting out, or they're trying to leave a job and start their own thing. So they're in a slightly different place. But what they have to understand is there are parts in their life when they were doing things unconsciously, intuitively, and with that spirit of excitement. And my job is to actually get them back to that place, to help them remember what they were doing then, to get them back in those feelings of excitement, of wonder, of that childlike excitement, and get them back into their vision and their dream, and help them remember why they were doing it and how to do it again. And once they start connecting the dots on that level, then then the color comes back and they perk up and it's fine. But it's just you know, helping people remember who they are.
We had this same conversation every single episode because it just comes up. It's part of the flow of the show now. And one of the things that people always say is they get told to find their passion. And if you've listened to every episode of this show, you'll hear me say exactly the same thing. But everyone kind of goes, I don't know my passion. I just don't know. Just tell me what my passion is. Almost like they can open a book and go, oh, yes, it is. And if they look back at their younger self, when they weren't looking for money, they were just looking for stuff to do because they liked doing it. That is their true passion. That's the things that they would run home from school every day to do because they wanted to do it. Now, the hard bit, the joining up the dots bit, is how they actually take that passion and make money out of it. That's the bit that takes effort. That's the bit that takes perseverance and becoming aware and all those kind of things. But actually, the finding the passion bit, ain't too hard. Just look back at your younger self and think, yeah. And if you can't remember, ask other people. You know, what did I used to like doing when I was a young kid? And your mum and your dad or whatever will say, oh, you was always doing this, you was always doing that. Because once we get into responsibilities and careers and the paths that people expect of us, we forget it. And I forgot it. Yeah. And now I'm doing this. I remember it like it was yesterday. But for 30 years, I just forgot what I should be doing. And I don't know why. It's so sad, isn't it?
Well, we get sucked into society, and you know there are all the should-haves and the right things to do, and there's the wrong things to do. And you got to remember, we spend like nearly 12 years in an education system that's preparing us to support that system. Remember, the education system isn't interested in creating autonomous human beings. I'll say that again. The education system is not interested in creating autonomous human beings. They are creating people to operate a system that is instilled and that they need to keep going. And that's a totally different thing. They don't need futurist thinkers who can, take us out of the crazy situation planet's Earth in right now. They want people to keep this situation going. They want people to keep running the banking system. They want people to keep running an inefficient energy system. They want people to use a sub standard telecom system. They want people to maintain the petrol and the transport system the way it is. That's the way the system's engineered. Anybody who thinks outside of that system, we do away with them. We don't want anybody to rise above the parapet, because that's not what this system's about. This system's about conformity, standard, conventional thinking, operating on the lowest levels. Let's have that straight. We operating on the lowest levels. So when you come out through the education system, you're only expected to do the job that is required of you. What do we say when people around us who seem brighter than everybody else? Oh, you think you're a smart ass. You think you're a bright, and that's because of the society. That's because the way society's been constructed. We don't celebrate geniuses. We don't celebrate it. And we put people down who are maverick. We put people down who stand out. We put people down who are clever. It's ridiculous. I heard this thing the other day where this guy was proclaiming that he was really great, right? And he was made to feel small because of that. And I thought about this. I was saying, so should he say that he's rubbish?
Yeah, it is. Because you said the word maverick there, and I laughed because throughout my career, the directors that I would work with used to say, "You're a maverick." And it was always like it was a bad thing. Now, it's like a badge of honour. And I would go, too right, I was a maverick. And I showed that because I'm not working for you anymore and I'm doing my own thing and I'm loving every second of every day. But at the time, it was kind of like I was finding angles to be creative, or I was trying to reduce an 8-hour day into 2 hours. And I used to think that's the way you do it. What's the point in going to work for 8 hours and sitting there bored? And getting back to the education system, I'm on a rant here. I feel myself going. But on the education system, I've realised, having these conversations, that one of the things why it's flawed, and it's not just flawed in this country, it's flawed across the globe, is so much of the education system is boring. And when you were a kid, you are bored out your head. And then every now and again, you'd get a teacher that was amazing and you'd remember. And it was not because they were teaching you, they were inspiring you. So I've got this word, inspiration, which is like half education and half inspiration. And if you could merge the two together, that would be pretty powerful. But I think now, looking back on my life, my career, most of it I was bored as well. But I'd been programmed from an early age to think, right, my days are going to be boring. So when I went into a job, I didn't challenge the status quo somehow. I accepted the boredom of it, where I would like a herd of people going, there must be better ways of doing this. We don't actually have to put up with this. Why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? And some of the forward-thinking companies, they are embracing that. And I read something the other day about a company, I can't think who they are off the top of my head, but they are saying, look, just reduce your hours, have more free time, because we know that when you come to work, you're going to be more productive and you're going to have loyalty towards us because we're giving you that. And, taking you back, I worked for a company up in London one day and I'd got the job, and on the very first day I came in for my work as everyone was going out. And I thought, hang on, this is a bit strange. And I said, what's happening? Is it a fire drill? And they went, oh, no, we're going to go down to Hyde Park, which is in the middle of London, and we're going to play rounders. And I went, what? Hang on, why are we doing that? Oh, Eddie, the owner, he says, let's do it. It's a lovely day. So we all kind of got out. And I'd been so programmed of having to work that I kind of sloped at the back like I was doing something bad, where everybody else was just striding purposefully down to the park to play rounders. And we had ice creams, and we were out there for about 2 hours, and we had a game of rounders. It was great. And as I was walking back, I said to the owner, Eddie, I said, why did you do that? I said, that's madness. He said, no. He said, because when they get back, they will give me 6 times as much effort. It's the little things that produce loyalty and production and stuff. Was he being a maverick? No, I think he was doing things in the right way because he was being creative and he was playing to his team's strengths and building something that they would buy into as well. Bit ranty, but there you go.
No, it's good. It's like, like you said, there are certain forward-thinking companies that, they understand this, and we're moving away from the Industrial Revolution with the Industrial Revolution rules as well. We're moving towards the information age, which is a totally different set of rules. And, one of the things that was interesting is that when you work for these cutting-edge companies, they are just that. They're full of cutting-edge people, and they go against the norm, and people are we've been so programmed, and we are so ingrained in the culture that's being programmed that anything that doesn't fit what the program suggests looks like a problem. And so we have to overcome that, and we have to get people back into their cells and getting them into the autonomous sovereign lifestyle, which says, you know what, you can be and do and have whatever you desire. You gotta take steps to be that way. And that's the difficult thing, Now, we are addicted to society the way it is. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he talked about, we should have this revolution and change society. I said, oh, really? Who would run it? Nobody would like to do that job. No one would like to do it the way it is. And so my next question is to him, do you think that we need to be governed? Like, well, of course we don't. It's just that's just the way that things have been up until now. What we're learning is how to get back into who we really are. And after a while, maybe 10, 20, 30 years from now, we'll have a totally different system where we'll have the majority of the people on the planet will be autonomous. The system will be flipped around the other way. This system is on its way out. We can see that. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked. It wasn't designed to work. It was only designed to keep a certain small minority into a position of power. And now that's run its course. People are waking up. People are understanding who they are, where their power lies, and this is a good. We want people to be able to get into their power because the answers for the world's problems aren't going to come from established conventional thinking. That's obvious now. We need people to tap into their own intuition, their own wisdom, their own consciousness and spirituality on a global level, so that we can fix the planet together. It's not up to certain people who have conventional or standard education to fix the problem. It's like we all live here. We all got to do something for the planet. You know what I'm saying? So as soon as everyone gets into their own power, the sooner we can all contribute to the planet.
Well, let's play the words of a famous A-lister Hollywood actor of Jim Carrey, who said this recently, and I play this literally every show now. I love this. This is Jim Carrey. See what you think.
My father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice. Instead, he got a safe job as an accountant. And when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job. And our family had to do whatever we could to survive. I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you love.
Isn't that the kind of same thing that we've been saying for 15 minutes? He just says it better.
Yeah.
What does that inspire you? Or do you kind of look at that and go, it's shameful that so many of us do not buy into it. We've got this one chance to be on this planet. We've got this one chance to have an absolute kick-ass life. We've got one chance to earn more money than we've ever earned before and love doing it at the same time. But we don't, because we're not taking that chance. We're not taking that risk to do the thing we love.
Um, it's funny when I was listening to that, he used the word survive, and I'm listening to the words that you're using, chance and risk as well. And I think what we do when we hear those things, we immediately have like this feeling that creates more feelings and emotions, and I think that once we actually start doing like taking these risks, taking these chances, we realize actually we're not taking a risk, and it's not really a chance, and we're not surviving. We're moving into something that's quite natural. It's just that we haven't been trained to think that way. And so when we start, I mean, for me, I remember when I was about 21, and I was like just getting into all this DJ and stuff, and I had this opportunity to get a good a proper job that was going to pay lots of money, or to follow this DJing thing. And at the time, the DJing thing wasn't paying lots of money, but what it was giving me was that freedom and that sense of I've achieved something because I've been doing this for so long. Now someone's recognized my talent, and they're going to actually start paying me some money to do what I really love to do. And I remember being afraid, right? And I was so scared that, I was thinking, the thoughts going on in my mind, what if it doesn't work? And I kept hearing my dad's voice, go and get a proper job, cut your hair, go and get a proper job. And I could hear my mum's voice saying, son, just be happy, go and do what you want to do, enjoy yourself. And I just remember having this feeling like, if I don't do this thing now, it will be much harder down the line, and I know I'll regret it. I just knew as a young man, 21 years old, I knew that if I didn't take action now, I'd just regret it. And I'd wake up like, 20, 30 years down the line, unhappy, fat, bald, right? Maybe driving a nice big fat car or whatever, but just being miserable and happy. And I just made that decision. I said, you know what? When I was on the decks, there would be nothing else would exist for me. I wasn't interested in women, nothing. I was just when it was time for my turn on the decks, because I shared turntables with my brother, and it was like that was our 8-hour day's work, right? He'd go on it for an hour, then I'd go on it for an hour. So my hour on those decks I was in the zone. You couldn't talk to me, you couldn't get any sense out of me whatsoever. It was like I was on a beach in Miami. I was that in the zone. It just didn't matter. And I thought about that for a minute. I thought, what would you rather do? Get paid £50 to go and play for an hour in this club in front of 100 people and make their night, or go and work in a shitty job where you're never going to really feel fulfilled and happy? And I said, you know what? I'll take the 50 quid, mate. And I've never looked back.
But the interesting thing about what you're saying there is, so many of our listeners are at the beginning of their career. They're at a point where they're getting these ideas of that they want more. That's the reason why they're listening to this show. If they'd already got what they want, they're not going to be listening to this show. But the cogs are starting to move. And it's fascinating, and I've said this numerous times as well, that you are striving for success. And once you get that glimmer of success, that's actually more scary than when you start. Because I've had that with this show. I was desperate to get it off the ground, and once it started to really go big, I actually freaked out for a whole afternoon, thinking, I don't know if I can provide that much content. I don't know if it's going to be good enough. And the audience, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if one person is listening to it or 100 million people. It's only me doing what I do as well as I can do it, and if they respond or they don't. But I freaked out big time. I was thinking, this is running away with me, and I wasn't expecting the success of this. And it was devil and angel. The angel was going, well, this is what you wanted. This is why you set it up. But the devil was going, no, it's going to screw up now. And people do have those fears all the time. And it's as scary to start as it is being successful. I bet Branson and Simon Cowell, all those still have those fears, because it's going into new stuff. And it's the new stuff that is the scary stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the unknown territory. So the imagination runs wild. It says, what's going to happen? It seeks security. So our biggest question when we do these things is how. So we need to know how it's going to be, how we need to do this. What are the steps that we need to take? And we're seeking security. We want to know how to do something before we take action. Well, there's the physicists Carl Carl Prebrum, I think his name is, he says that you can never know everything you need to know before you take action. So get used to acting with uncertainty. So Tony Robinson talks about the first human need, which is certainty. We need to be certain about the universe. I need to know that when I get out of bed, I put my feet on the floor is there. But you get too much certainty, and you get what? You get boredom, you get monotony. And so guess what the second human need is? Uncertainty, right? So you need variety, you need to have contrast. And so when we're thinking about what we need to create in the world, in time and space, like, if you know the outcome of something too much, you're not going to do it. You won't do it. And that's where we're bored about life. And that's why we need the change that we're going through. So it's quite ironic when we actually think about what we want to do next. And we say, I want to create change. But then when the universe provides us with change, we say, no, I don't want it. I want to stay the same. It's like, it's a crazy phenomenon. But what we got to understand as well is it's never as bad as we are imagining. And I'll say that again. It's never as bad as what we are imagining, because fear is being afraid of something you're imagining happening. It hasn't happened yet. So we're making a picture in our mind about something that hasn't happened yet, that we're not willing to take action on. So we've created something. So a suggestion would be for us is what can we imagine it being better than? Like, let's imagine it being really good. Let's imagine it being really exciting. Let's imagine it being really fun, unique and different. Those being afraid to take action isn't a reason not to take action. That's not a real reason not to take action. That just means you don't have enough information before you take action. And that's easy to acquire. Find people who've done what you've done before. Read some biographies. Take the step that's least scariest moving forward. So there are lots of ways to get around that. It's just the only time we actually fail is when we don't take action. And so
I think actually, just jumping into there, because I don't want to leave that point, take the step that is least scary first. I think that is absolutely the right thing to do when you are trying to build momentum. Once you get momentum, I think it flips on its head, and you need to do the thing that scares you the most. And certainly the things that I'm finding now in my life, and the things that are shooting me on like a rocket, are the bits that actually, even when I think about it and I've already done it, it scares me. And I'm now using that as a compass to where I should be going. So if I wake up and I have this idea in my head and I think, oh, I don't know. And, I'm talking about it now and I can feel my stomach tightening. So, we're humans. We just have these fears. But I now go for that. And I never used to, but now I go for it. And most of the time when it comes off, and it does come off, which is the amazing thing, most of the time it always comes off. And in your head, you kind of go, no, that's not going to happen. Why would that happen? No one wants to do this. I'm a nobody, blah, 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 blah. But you shoot ahead. And you shoot ahead so dramatically because you are coming out of that comfort zone that's holding you back. So do the little steps first of all, and then pick up the pace, and then start doing the really scary stuff. And that's where you really do, fire through obstacles that are just not there anymore.
Yeah, I agree. In the beginning, it's scary. Do what's least expected of you. Then when you're getting going, do the big scary stuff. My thing is we are supposed to succeed. We're supposed to succeed. That's normal. That's the reality. You look into nature. Nature succeeds all the time. It finds a way to make things happen. We're part of that system.
Did you think though that it is back to just pure self-limiting beliefs? Because we see overnight success, the perceived overnight success, and we haven't seen the crappy clubs and the pubs and all these kind of places. We talk about Ed Sheeran again. Now, Ed Sheeran is the classic 10-year overnight success, where even like 3 years ago, he was playing to like 5 people in a hall and actually having to pay for his own bus there and back. But he put the effort in. But because we as an audience almost don't find that bit interesting, we just like the glory, the red carpet and all that kind of stuff. We don't believe that we can have the same. But there's no difference between DJ Krust, David Ralph, Ed Sheeran, we're all babies, aren't we? We're all babies, but we just make the most of what we've got. And certainly, you know, I look at these people and I'm striving for certain things. And in my head, I have self-limiting beliefs that, it's all right for them, they've done it. But it's just round the curve. It's just that they started earlier.
Yeah, and it's about persistence. You know, the universe will yield to you, but you just got to be persistent. It's like, you know, someone making a sculpture with a solid piece of rock. You know, they need to chip away at it continually over time to get to a beautiful statue. And so it is with us and our ideas. You know, it takes a while for these things to occur, not because it's about what you get at the end. It's about who you become along the way, so that you can manage it once you get to the end. You know, and that's the easy way to explain that is, why do so many people who win the lottery lose all their money within 12 to 18 months? Because they haven't built up the natural understanding of how to manage money. And if you don't know how to manage anything, how are you going to keep it? So you learn. It takes you 10 years to learn about business, to learn about your craft, to learn about your trade, so that once you finally get to where you think you want to be, you can manage it, and then you can plan where you want to get to next. You know, and it seems like the world's against me and everything's so hard and so tough. It's like, pull your socks up, and understand, right? It's not tough. It's just you got to understand how to start thinking in new ways. No, we have habitual programs that we have used to survive this environment. Now we have to learn new ways of thinking. That takes time. You cannot rush that. So when we think about it in new ways, we get insights and we get different levels of understanding, which leads to wisdom. And that's what we want. We don't need more information, because we can get all the information we want out of books. And that's what we went to school, and they bombarded us with the left brain stuff. And that didn't do us any good, because 90% of people who go through education system have to be retrained to do the job when they go to get the job. So we know that isn't the answer either. So we're looking to get insights, knowledge, and wisdom.
Oh, this is a good conversation, isn't it? I think we're going to change the world.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Me and DJ Krust. I'm the trendiest person on the planet at the moment. My kids will love this. Now, if you take it with you then, and you have got this sort of alter ego, as I say, you've got your proper name, and you go out and you do your courses and you inspire people and you talk about creation in the mind and the arts and the ideas and all that kind of stuff. Then in the evening, you are like Batman, I suppose. You've got this alter ego, DJ Krust, and you go out and do your thing. Now, both of them are playing to your unique strengths. Both of them are your unique passions, because I can just hear when you're talking about it, it's all going to come together. Where does it sort of separate? Is there times when you're DJ Krusting and you kind of almost forget that you're the other person, and then when you're the other person, you kind of think, oh, blimey, I've got to do that tonight, and you flip? Or does it just merge?
Yeah, I mean, definitely when I'm on the decks, it's definitely on DJ Krust and I'm performing, and it's definitely about the performance. Then I go into the mode, you know, I wear certain clothes, you know, my attitude changes, you know, and I have to concentrate in a slightly different way, because, you know, when I'm on the decks, that is a job. You know, I'm entertaining people and I need to be professional, you know, and I need to prepare for that. I need to do work for that. Although I've been doing it 25 years, there's still preparation that needs to happen. And, you know, and so I go to work, you know, that's my job. I go to work and I go and do it very well. It's something that I've been doing over, you know, like I said, 25 years. But yeah, it is a job, and I do go into mode, and it's very, very different from... It's not so much different from the workshops that I do, in the sense that I see the workshops as a kind of performance, but a different type of performance. And there's no decks I'm hiding behind. I'm speaking to people, and I'm giving them the lowdown of how to think in new ways, how to behave in new ways, how to tap into their unique passions, their unique skills. And so it requires a slightly different level of understanding and presenting skills, but essentially I do see them as sort of the same a same sort of level of entertainment or performance, but they both of them, I'm looking to inspire the audience in a way.
It's fascinating that you say that you've been doing it 25 years and you still prepare and you do preparation. Because I do this show.
Sorry, but I still get nervous.
Well, that's right. You should do. Yeah. You know, I used to do training courses, and I would have done the same training courses hundreds of times, and I still always used to whiz off for a wee beforehand. It was just, it was the nerves, you know. I like the nerves as long as you can control them. But you know, I do this job now on a daily basis. Every time I do it, I'm nervous. Absolutely. But have I done my preparation? Yeah, I do more preparation than I do actually recording. These bits are great, but I know that I can't make these great, fingers crossed, if I haven't done the preparation first. And so that's the bit, isn't it? That's the bit that, once again, people don't want to see. They want to see you up there whizzing your decks and clanging away and all that kind of stuff. And they kind of want to think that you are just walking up there and just doing it. But you can only make it look like you're doing it because you put the preparation in. And the fact that you are still preparing, you know, like David Beckham, the old football player, he was always the first one on the pitch taking free kicks and the last one taking free kicks. And you kind of think to yourself, what more is he going to learn? He can take a free kick better than anyone. But he knew that it was that constant 10,000 hour rule practice constantly all the time. And that's what separates the real successful from the mid-success to the people that don't get going. It's that extra effort, isn't it?
Yeah, you got to work. You got to work at your art. You know, I love the saying, you know, take yourself seriously. You know, and know more about your craft than everybody else. It's like that shows you in your own subconscious. It sends a message to yourself to say, you know what, I value myself, I respect myself, I love myself enough to keep working. You know, to keep pushing myself and to keep trying. You know, to learn more, to know more. And, you know, once you get into that habit, it becomes an addiction. And that's a great addiction for me, studying, reading, applying the knowledge, speaking to experts, speaking to people like yourself who are clearly enthusiastic about this type of knowledge and helping other people. For me, that's what it's about. You know, when you know that what you have can inspire and help other people, and you just get that thirst for more. You know, it's like, I love doing what I do. You know, I'm very, very fortunate, and I know that. And so for me to keep giving the highest value, and not just, you know, on the turntables, I make music as well. So I'm studying music, I'm reading books, I'm going to workshops, I'm going to seminars. You know, I'm interested in being the best version of me that I can be. And to do that, I need to be around people that are inspirational, that are who think the same thoughts as me, and who are pushing themselves to become the best versions of themselves as well. And that's empowering and encouraging.
But it's I say easy to do. I'm now finding it incredibly easy to surround myself by motivational, positive, successful people across the globe because I've put myself in that position. But if you are in a job and you don't like the job, most of the time your colleagues don't like the job as well. And so you're the opposing view, aren't you? You're surrounded by misery guts who are going, oh, I can't wait till the weekend. Oh, this job's rubbish and all that kind of. So you can easily do it. And the more success you have, the easier it occurs and people suck towards you. And then suddenly you get people that you've never heard of who have been introduced by X, Y, Z. And it just becomes stronger and stronger. It's like one of those kind of weird biological things when you see one cell join to another cell and another cell and they suddenly start creating something. And once you get that kind of momentum that the cells are whizzing in at each other, you're really cooking.
I mean, it's like collective consciousness. That's how it works. And, you know, you get, you know, the commercial term would be like, you know, law of attraction, but, you know, like attracts like. You know, when we vibrate on a new frequency, you know, you attract other people who are vibrating on that same frequency. That's where the term comes from. You know, he's on the vibe. You know, you feeling it, bro? He's like, yeah, I'm feeling it. That's because we're feeling the same level of excitement. We're vibrating on the same frequency, on the same level of energy. And, you know, when we do that, it's very, like you say, once you get through, so it takes on average 21 days to 30 days to create a new habit. So I like to say, if you give yourself 90 days to create a new habit, the first 90 days are like going uphill. So if you think about a rocket taking off into space, you know, like the space shuttle will use 90% of its fuel to get outside of the Earth's atmosphere, because that's the hardest part. You know, you go through that inertia. But after you get through the Earth's atmosphere, it's clean sailing. And that's what the first 90 days of learning any new trait is: realigning your brain and your mind and your consciousness and your habitual way of thinking to something else. After you get through that, it's plain sailing. There's not much resistance. What tends to generally happen is you miss the new thing if you don't do it. And so in the beginning, yeah, it's hard work, but it pays off big in the end.
Let's play the words of Steve Jobs, because the theme of the show is connecting your dots, joining up your dots. And he talks about having faith and trust and intuition, and that's really what we've been talking about over the last hour. But I'm going to be interested to see your point of view on these words. So I'm going to play Steve Jobs, then we're going to have a quick chat.
Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever, because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path, and that will make all the difference.
Well, it's quite obvious that you can connect your dots, because you've already sort of alluded to that in the conversation. But how does those words actually make you feel, if we're talking about feelings and vibes again?
Well, when I hear that, it's confirmation that, you know, that I do know what I'm talking about.
It always
and
helps,
also,
doesn't it?
yeah, and it just made me realize, you know, like a powerful person like that, who has single-handedly revolutionized, you know, the technological face of the planet and sort of culture as well, with his you know, Max, and the way that he saw the world. It's like he trusted something that no one knows what it is. You know, we talk about it in this really kind of flimsy, kind of, you know, consciousness way and whatever, but this guy made the biggest company in the world from that. You know, that must be encouraging when we think about that. And for people that are stuck in these dead-end jobs that don't believe in it, but they stay in it and keep doing the same thing, you know. And I love the term, you know, if you don't have a goal, you work for people who do. It's like, it doesn't take much to shift your awareness to focus on something that you do believe in, you know, and start to take actions towards that, you know. And if you do start on your path today, you know, you'll start to see the things around you start to support you. And you have to believe in, like you said, you have to believe in something, you know. Look at your family and put your faith in them. If you don't have enough power and energy to put it in yourself, it will work. You have to take the first steps. You know, here's one of the planet's greatest visionaries talking about, you know, trust in yourself, trust in vision, things that we can't quantify, things that modern science doesn't even acknowledge. But yet every single successful businessman on the planet will always tell you that they felt it in their gut, or they had a feeling. And what do you mean? But we don't actually ask them that. We just kind of intuitively know what they mean. No one actually says, "Oh, what? Can you explain exactly what you mean?" No one says that. We just kind of go, yeah, I kind of know what you mean. And it's intuitively ingrained in our consciousness that we all know what it means when someone says that, but we don't all know how to take action on that thing, because there's no blueprint for it. But that's why Steve said we've got to trust, because like I said, the planet is set up for us to succeed. You know, consciousness sets up for us to succeed. The universe sets it up for us to succeed. It's up to us to just take that on board and say, you know what, I'm just going to take one step. and then I'm going to see what happens, and then I'm going to just take another step and see what happens. It's like he's right. You can't connect the dots going forward, but what you can do is that you can take one step in faith, knowing that you're one step closer to wherever it is that you need to be. You know, on a journey of 1,000 miles, you just got to take the first step.
I like the words of John Lennon. He never understood what the Beatles was because he was in the Beatles. And he didn't get the vibe, the feeling that their music gave everybody else because he was in it. And somebody said to him, you know, did you believe in the Beatles? And he says, no, I don't believe in the Beatles. I just believe in me, because all he had was the control in what he was doing and his own talent and his own personal belief. And I think that's what we have to do, isn't it? And when something gets big, hopefully, you have to realise that actually you aren't the big bit. You are just you. And that is the most important part. Yeah,
I think as well, I think of what a lot of people do. They project really fast forward, and they think, oh, what am I going to do when it gets really big, or how am I going to manage this success, or, you know, what am I going to do with all these £1 million, and won't it be boring driving around in a Ferrari and having lots of beautiful girls around me? And yeah, sure.
Brilliant, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a tough life traveling first class. I must admit, you know, I've struggled with that all my life. But at the end of the day, it's like, don't bother thinking about that. You know, what I realized over the last couple of years, because there's amount of success I've had, you know, I've been toured all over the world. I've worked with big artists. I've recorded in amazing studios. I've been signed to major record companies. I've won the Mercury Music Prize. We've had top 10 hits. But the last sort of 7 years, I've struggled with trying to figure out what I want to do next and how to do it. And what I remembered, I went back to the simple thing of just enjoying what I do. And that got me right back into me again. You know, and I forgot about trying to be successful. I forgot about trying to make money. I forgot about trying to be this big shot DJ and carry on my career. And what are people thinking? Because I'm doing this training and workshop thing now. You're supposed to be this big shot DJ, blah, 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 rah, rah, rah. I forgot all about that. And I just remembered what it was like to be on the decks when I was like 18 years old. I just remembered that. And I was like, that's who you are, kid. Go back to remember that. Just remember why you started to do this. You wanted to have fun. You didn't want to be famous. I didn't want to be a DJ. I just wanted to enjoy being on the decks. That was all. And out of being on the decks came all this other stuff, you know. And after I enjoyed being on decks, I started enjoying being in the studio. And it was just like, oh, I wonder if I can make this bass sound. I wonder if I can make these drums. I wonder if I, oh, no. Eventually, all that stuff became making one tune. And then I was like, oh, my God, I can actually make music now. And like, oh, this is great. I can really start figuring out how to get what's in my mind now into this music. And then after that, it was like, now I'm going to enjoy playing my own music while I DJ out. It's like, oh my God, I'm in heaven. And that was it. There was no thought about releasing records, getting signed to majors, like none of those things were like important at the time. And only after I got, you know, success and I started to build and build, you knew what to expect. And then after a while, the expectation turned into something else and something else and something else. And then you become so. After or through that journey, I started to relate more to Krust than I did to who I really was, like Kirk. I started to blur the lines because that's how your identity starts switching. You know, like John, very, very astute, said he didn't believe in the Beatles. Well, I didn't have that. I actually thought I was this Krust guy because when it wasn't working, Krust didn't know how to deal with it. He didn't know what to do next, and he struggled and suffered until I remembered, you're not actually Krust, you're Kirk. Wake up! Remember who you are. You're not the name. That's an act. That's something you created. That's not who you are. And I was like, you know, it was like Neo coming out of the Matrix. I was like, oh yeah, right. You know, I started to wake up and realize what I didn't get into this to become Krust or to become famous. I got into this so I could have fun and enjoy myself. Along the way, that happened, and so. You know, my last 7 years has been about waking up again, waking up to like this brilliant person who's exciting, who's full of life and who's full of fun, you know, and that's now spirit. That's what's helping me grow and create something new and help me create this new company. It's like when you figure out who you really are, then it's easy to take that into the world. The result of that is what they call money, is what they call, you know, praise or success. But if you go after money and success and praise, it won't work. It doesn't work like that. You've got to be who you really are from your core, from your center, and naturally you resonate these other qualities out into the world, you know, and that's why people tap into you and they say, oh, that's nice, I like that music. Oh, that's nice, I like that program you're doing. It's like, yeah, because like you said earlier, I'm living my passion, and that's what people buy into. That's the enthusiasm, you know, because it's effortless. Then it's like, you're not, like you said in the beginning, why do you need to be someone else when it's easier to be yourself? And that is the core of it.
Well, let's send you back in time now to find the time when DJ Krust wasn't even around and it was just little Kirk running around in Bristol. Because this is a part of the show that we call a sermon on the mic. And if you could go back in time to have a one-on-one with your younger self, what advice would you give him and what age would you choose? Well, we're going to find out now because this is up. You're on the sermon on the mic.
Here we go with the best bit of the show, the sermon on the mic, the sermon on the mic.
Well, I'd like to speak to my younger self again, little Kirk, at 16. And little Kirk, just remember, always be yourself, you know, always rely and trust your own instincts. You know, whatever happens to you, you're always going to be able to learn from your mistakes. And even if whatever type of mistake you make, you'll always be able to learn from it. And so going forward in life, you know, be excitable, enjoy what you're doing, you know, meet people, be open, be honest, you know, and be true to yourself, be true to your values, you know, and don't worry about breaking any rules because there aren't any to be broken, you know, they're just there for you as guidelines for you to keep you kind of on the path, on the straight and narrow. You know, you're going to meet people who are going to like some of the music that you make. You're also going to meet people who don't like some of the music that you make, but don't take any of it seriously. You remember why you started getting into music was because you enjoyed it, you know, and a few people said they liked it and they enjoyed it, and that's great, you know, but keep on making music from your heart. You know, never get too concerned about how much money you're making because it's not really about that. It's always going to be about making yourself happy, and the people that really love you and enjoy what you're doing, you know, they'll always support you. And so think about, you know, considering to make music for those type of people that enjoy what you're doing. And as you get older, you'll start getting into business and you'll understand about finances. Don't be afraid of accountants and lawyers. They're there to help you. And so, you know, start to ask them for their opinions and start to learn more about business from a young age, because you're going to need it. You know, you're actually going to start to teach business to people, teach, you know, creative thinking to people. So the more you understand about that, the more easier it will be for you to explain and help other people that will be looking for your assistance. So from the music, you'll get into helping people and sharing your gifts and your knowledge. And that's how the world works. You know, that's the legacy of the world. When you're young and exciting, you stumble along, you make mistakes, you learn from those mistakes. And as you get older, you'll meet people coming behind you who are doing the same thing, you know, and it's a nice thing to do to help other people on their journey. Using your wisdom and knowledge, you have the advantage of hindsight. You can share that with these people and help them so that, you know, you're not trying to stop them making mistakes. You're just trying to show them a new way of thinking that can potentially help them grow and get to wherever they want to get to quicker. So enjoy your life, have fun. It's going to be fun, you know, and when you catch up with your older self, tell them so you can show them what you remember.
So just before we say goodbye to you, the very last question, do you think that everyone out there can have a kick-ass life?
Oh, for sure. It's available for everybody. And you know what? A good friend of mine, she said to me, whatever is in the world is available. So anyone and everyone is entitled to it, and we can all have it. And I would just like to add, in an infinite universe with infinite choice, everything is available for us. We just need to choose it.
There you go, listeners. DJ Krust told you that one. So how can our audience connect with you, sir?
So you can get me on Twitter on DJ Krust, Facebook DJ Krust. You can get me at disruptive-patterns.com. If you want to connect with me and get some more information about my coaching and stuff, you can email me at k@disruptive-patterns.com.
We will have all those on the show notes to make it easy for you. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us today, joining up those dots. And please come back again when you have more dots to join up, because I do believe that by joining up the dots and connecting our pasts, it's the best way to build our futures. DJ Krust, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dave. It's been a pleasure.
David doesn't want you to become a faded version of the brilliant self you were once to become. So he's put together an amazing guide for you called the 8 Pieces of Advice That Every Successful Entrepreneur Practices, including the 2 that changed his life. Head over to joinupdots.com to download this amazing guide for free, and we'll see you tomorrow on Join Up Dots.
Yes, hello there. Do you know, during the show, I was just looking through the iTunes reviews that everyone's left. Oh, I've had some amazing ones. Well, every single one is amazing. They're all 5-star. Why will they not be 5-star? Because it's a 5-star show. But I haven't seen one from you. Is it something I've said? Is it me? Please, tell me, is it me? Well, if it's just an oversight, please make amends by going over to iTunes and looking for Join Up Dots with David Ralph. And if you could find a few moments to leave a 5-star rating and review, oh, it'd be absolutely amazing. And it will really push my show further up the rankings and make it more of a show that I want to deliver to you on a daily basis. So if you could do that, thank you so much. And I tell you what, I might even come and mow your lawn this Sunday.